Hello and welcome again to another episode of
Right.
Truly Happy One. And in this episode, we will be discussing our power to shape the planet and what they mean for the future. Ako po si Eric Calugdan. Together with us is Sir Enrico
Hi.
Garcia. I used to be an IT consultant for Unisys and also put up my own business called Infotext. And I'm also the CIO of Philpax and CTO of Sante. So you can call me a serial entrepreneur. Si Sir Enrico naman po is used to be the retail operations manager of Shell and then became the country manager of Herbalife and became the director of operations of Avon and one of the board of directors of the Direct Selling Association of the Philippines. Now he's a mindset coach and he basically approached me and said, Eric, ano bang pwede natin gawin dito sa pandemic na to? Dahil puro bad news na lang yung naririnig natin. Wala na tayong narinig na good news. No? So, paano ba natin matutulungan yung mga kapwa natin Pinoy at magbago yung kanilang pag-iisip at matutunan naman paano ba maging successful kahit ganito yung sitwasyon natin. Paano ba mag-isip yung mga tinatawag na world-class Pinoy, no? Para tayo din maging world-class Pinoy. And doon po nabuo ang Truly Happy One. Yan. Thank you po for joining us. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to this video. Ayan, si Sharon po is watching us. Ayan, may
Thank you,
bet account.
Sharon.
Thank you for watching. So, like nyo na po, if you have questions during our discussion, type nyo lang sa comment section sa Facebook or dyan sa chat sa YouTube. Okay? So, ang purpose ng Truly Happy One, yun nga, magbago ang pag-iisip ng ating mga kapwa Pilipino, si Juan, at maging truly happy. Hindi lang yung fake happy or front happy lang, kundi truly happy. Ayan. So, make sure, you subscribe and also let us know where are you watching from. If you're watching from Manila, type nyo rin sa comments watching from Manila. Or if you're watching from Mandaluyong, type nyo watching from Mandaluyong para alam natin kung hanggang saan umaabot itong ating broadcast. So every week, we meet every Saturdays at 5 p.m. So kung ako kayo, lagay nyo na sa calendar nyo, Saturdays 5 p.m. Watch Truly Happy One. And this week, we are at episode 29. Wow, malapit na tayo mag 30 weeks. 29 weeks na pong tumatakbo ang Truly Happy One. And thank you po sa inyong mga viewers, katulad nyo, na tuloy-tuloy na nanonood sa atin. So every week, Saturday 5 p.m., iba-iba yung topics natin. So for this week, ang topic natin is about our power to shape the planet and what they mean for the future. So Sir Enrico, ano ba itong topic natin na to for this week?
Yeah, thank you, Eric, and good afternoon to you and our viewers, no. So, yung topic natin hindi naman wag it sounds ganyan lang yung ano niya, but really it's just to take stock of what's happening, and we will show that in the slide. So, we are really in terms of being wealthier, in terms of being healthier, and even more educated throughout human history. This is the moment where on those three scales, we've seen much more progress and the advancements in health, diba? And more educated. Yet the irony is we have also created a lot of not so good things. Ang tawag ko nga dun is yung parang paradox of success. That wonderful things have been achieved. Just look at our lives now. I mean, everything on your phone you can do practically, right? Yet, in the total scheme of things, we have also created a lot of less desirable or unwanted price of success and economic progress, di ba? So, pakita natin, di ba, yung paradox of success. And graphically, I just wanted to point out, di ba, because I was also doing some research on this and I heard some experts that inequality has grown tremendously. As in, grabe yung inequality. At the same time, maraming naging millionaire and billionaires, di ba, Eric? In a very short span of time. And that's because of, the rise of technology. So, whilst it has created amazing opportunities and wealth, it has also tilted the scales, di ba? Na yung 1%, as you can see, is even, heavier in terms of wealth compared to the balance. No? And we'll show some figures. No? And again, you just look around, di ba? Isn't it ironic, di ba? Katabi, dito sa BGC, di ba? Grabe, Central Business District. As in, literally, you cross the street into Kalayaan, you will see an entirely different economic reality right beside
Correct.
it.
Oo.
Di ba? And in other places, ganun din sa Metro Manila. So, definitely, that has, that reality is there. And then, again, in our lifetime, Eric, in our short lifetime, racism is on an upsurge, di ba? As we've seen recent events, di ba? And not just racism, violence, di ba? Disagreement over, how their economy or their political structure is, not working for them. And then in the middle, of course, look at that tree, di ba? That whilst we have, increased the yield on so many things, we've also, sad to say, destroyed our planet. The typhoons are stronger, the flooding is, worse, and our weather is, completely messed up. What we used to know as the dry and wet season in the Philippines, humaba ang certain seasons, di ba? And
Mm.
then the last image there is, I didn't know this until it was, I stumbled upon it, where one third of the world's food production is actually thrown to waste, Eric. One
Wow.
third. Yet 1 in 10 people don't have a meal.
Mhm.
Di ba? So, ito yung paradox, di ba? With all that success and all we have all these other not too good realities, di ba? So,
Mhm.
it's within that context yung topic natin. That how is it
Okay.
that, yeah, we're able to do all these wonderful things, we can repair, yet we can also damage, di ba?
Mhm.
So
Correct.
yeah, it's, and somehow we're losing that balance, di ba? Kaya there's a lot of angst or parang anxiety, the lack of happiness and fulfillment among nations, di ba? The general population. And that's why you have all
Mhm.
these things, di ba, happening. Sige, next, yeah.
Next slide. Ayan.
Yeah. And ato, this is just to highlight yung inequality, di ba? So, unang-una, there are only 2,095 billionaires worldwide. Imagine that, Eric.
This
Only
is US
2,000.
dollar.
Oh, the
US dollar
total net worth of
billionaires.
the world's billionaires is 8 trillion. Yet, okay, nabawasan yan because nga of what happened, di ba? Yung sa
Ah,
pandemic. But there are only 2,095 billionaires. Okay?
wow.
Yet, again, I was, listening to this podcast where you only have 26 families that they basically own or control half of the planet as we know it. The balance of humanity is
Wow.
there. Ganun ka talagang yung inequality, di ba? I mean, you just look at the list of the wealthiest people, di ba?
Oo.
They wield so much economic and political power, di ba? I mean,
Mhm.
nothing wrong. It's just that they've earned that on of their own. But yun nga, you've really produced inequality, di ba? That doesn't mean
Correct.
they have done that. They have achieved that, right? So,
Ilan na ba ang
oh,
population ngayon sir worldwide? Nasa
7 billion, 7.5 maybe
7
billion.
billion. So
Oo.
7 billion, 2,000 yung billionaire. Ibig sabihin ang billionaire ay 0.00, 2%. Grabe,
Yeah.
dami. Wa-
Yeah.
Wala pang 1% of 1%.
Yeah, exactly. Di ba?
Grabe, sobrang konti. Ang layo ng disparity. Ayan.
Correct.
Nanonood din po sa atin, sir, si Norberto Manuel and Gogo Espinosa. Ayan. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you.
watching.
Thank you for
Si
watching.
Norberto is from Holy Spirit QC. Ayan. Good afternoon po
Wonderful.
sa atin.
Good
And
afternoon.
we
Yeah.
have CJ Teodoro, Nerissa Roraldo, and Ching Sai. And
Wow.
someone from Mandaluyong watching us.
Oh,
Ayan. Thank
perfect.
you for watching.
So,
Okay. Map
ito
of
graphical
billionaire.
map lang of the billionaires saan nanggagaling, 'di ba? Ang Philippines nandiyan nga, 'di ba? So, we know that, 'di ba? And it really just again, it's not to take away from what they've done. They've been fantastic, hugely successful. But there's this debate nga, 'di ba? Na parang yun lang yung nangyari, lalong lumalaki yung inequality, 'di ba? Kasi nga, especially today, mas mabilis to become a billionaire today, 'di ba?
Mhm.
You get it right in the tech space in a very short span of time. Di ba? Mabilis.
Yung
And you
mga
have to,
tinatawag nila na unicorn,
right.
unicorn
And
companies.
you have to do it quickly kasi nga, mabilis rin yung cycle ngayon, Eric. Hindi na, gone are the many years ago na it takes decades before an industry starts to shift or, have something new. Now, it's much shorter. Di ba?
Yung hypergrowth na tinatawag natin.
Right, 'di ba? Ang bilis
Oo.
masyado because new technologies, processes come in. So that's really just to give the idea. And again, it's related to our power to shape this planet, 'di ba?
Mm.
Okay, next slide, yeah.
Next. Ayan.
So here's another one. So again, when we talk success, it goes beyond just economic progress or GDP as it's typically defined, di ba? Kasi nga there's a group now, and we'll get to the next slide, where they're really advocating, and I'm talking countries. The group that I'm talking about are individuals, organizations, government, non-government, and even countries that are now advocating that we revisit the economic paradigm, di ba? How do we really define, di ba, yung success? Kasi nga with all these, yung inequality, di ba? So, take a look at this as an example, di ba? This movement is starting to define success as success has to be responsible, sustainable, and equitable, di ba? So, di ba? Hindi lang pwedeng, you grow economically and then you damage. You damage what? Maybe society, the inequality, you contribute to it, or the environment, di ba? It comes at a
Correct.
cost, di ba? So, at saka, kailangan meron yung, of course, you need to strike a balance on yung equitable. Ibig sabihin, syempre, ayaw mo naman rin i-stifle yung hard work and creativity ng enterprise, di ba? But we've got to find a way, and maybe this is government, di ba? How do you make it equitable, di ba?
Mm.
At least those that you control, di ba? And there's, a very, very, small steps that have, already taken place. But of course, it's still long work in progress. As an example, maybe 3 decades ago, people would never think that renewable energy would even be a major force. 10 years ago, maybe masyadong mahal yan. Yet, take a look at Denmark. Almost half of the power consumed in Denmark is already coming from renewable energy, as it's called. In this case, yung wind, no?
And
And
2016 pa yun.
yeah,
4 years ago.
way over half na sila. So half of their requirement, of course, it's a smaller country, but half of their power requirements are no longer on fossil fuel, meaning on petroleum. And by 2050, completely, wala na silang, zero. So
Wow.
these are, so ito yung responsible because you're using, whatever's available and using technology to work with it. Yun nga di ba? Very sustainable because you're using the power of the sun and in this case wind, di ba? And it's equitable in the sense that everybody shares also the savings from it, di ba? And you don't do damage to the earth because there's enough damage already, di ba? So hindi ka na ganun ka-dependent sa petroleum based, di ba? So that's just an example. Costa Rica, couple of years ago, got rid of its army. So ang ginawa nila, yung budget sa army, niredistribute nila into basic services. Di ba? Social services, education, health. So yung budget nila, tinanggal nila doon sa army, ilagay natin doon. I think the Netherlands is doing that. And other countries now are starting to, yung isang topic natin the last time, yung well-being economy.
Yes,
In fact, I believe, yes. Baka you have questions kasi the next slide will actually show that.
Okay. Sige. Next slide tayo. Ayan.
After this,
Well-being. Okay.
Yeah. So, there are 3 countries that are very, very serious about this. And again, I stress this is a lot of work in progress. No? So, one of them is Scotland. This is actually their model. Iceland and even New Zealand are very serious where they really put the collective well-being ng tao di ba? People and
Mm,
planet. I remember you mentioned to me UBI, Universal Basic Income,
basically, yes, oo.
di ba?
Yun yung
So,
statement na tinatry nila i-push, di ba? Na merong allowance yung mga tao. Yun yung bare basic na wala dapat nagugutom sa kanila. Kaya
right.
tinatry nila i-push yung UBI or Universal Basic Income.
Right. So, ang importante dun is that the reason there's this movement is because nakikita nga nila that we probably need to balance it a little better, 'di ba? Kasi nga
Mm.
nakita na yung effects, 'di ba? So, where fundamental human needs are met. And that's a very broad range from human rights to, their dignity, diba? Where they can, at least provide for the most basic, which is food, shelter, clothing, which is a UBI. Yun ang
Mm.
concept ng UBI. I-provide mo man lang yung basic, diba? And
Correct.
then resources are shared fairly. Again, not to go to the other extreme, but where you make the resources available and accessible to most, diba?
Oo.
And I'll take the example of RE. Maganda yun dito sa atin. There are laws. I don't know if you're aware that um, meron ng batas yung green option sa energy where
Mm.
consumer can select yung magiging source niya ng energy. So it needs development but the law is already there na hindi pwedeng sabihin Meralco, hindi pwede. So they can actually, if there's somebody selling solar power through the grid, Meralco will be compelled by law to make that available to consumer. Diba?
Mm.
You can. Meron na yan. Meron na yan. Yung tinatawag na green option. Diba? So, nandun naman yung steps. Diba? Kasi nga, that's one way. Diba? To share the resources. Diba? And then the economy is embedded in society and in nature. Diba? It's not just GDP or GNP. In fact, ang
Mhm.
umiiral in this model is yung well-being ng tao ang nasa gitna. And the
Correct.
economy and policies should support that.
Mhm.
In fact, there's a country that measures national gross happiness. His Majesty, yung ng Bhutan. Diba?
Mhm.
It's here in Asia. I mean, of course, but it's really showing that there's this growing want to, that we know we can do things better. We have to do things differently, diba?
Mhm.
So yun,
Correct.
Eric. And then one last slide para tapos na
Sige.
tayo. Take a look at this. This one is really interesting. It summarizes yung sinasabi natin. Over the last, obviously, in this graph, 50 years, grabe yung GDP, di ba? Increasing, di ba? We've really, more wealth has been created. But what they call yung social progress imperative or yung well-being, di ba? The real, genuine progress indicator has really, naghiwalay sila. Nung nag-umpisa sila, halos mag-match, and then over the period from the 70s all the way to 2000, di lang nag-stagnate, medyo nag-drop pa. That's why
Lalo na sa dulo, parang last 2 years ba yan or last 3 years, nag-drop pa siya.
oh yeah,
Baliktad yung
yeah,
GDP.
yeah. And this
Bakit?
is, yun nga, because nga,
Ah,
hindi, yung view nga is just parang one-dimensional, di ba? Na you're just looking at economic success. It's your model, di ba? In other words,
ah,
yeah, of course, growth, of course, di ba? Economy. But yun nga, if you've been looking at this, it has its not too good an effect on the greater population. Diba? You
mhm.
have inequality, you have all these things, diba? So, ayan, yan yung pinlock nila yan, diba? And that's why there's movement. So, we have the power to shape the planet. We can create wonderful things, yet we can also be the first one to damage, diba? As we've done with the environment, diba?
Mhm.
Yesterday we are somewhere in Manila Bay and you could see the effects, diba?
Mhm.
Grabe yung plastic in the middle of nowhere. You just see it, diba? And we all know this is not an environment discussion, but you feel it, diba? Imagine December, umuulan, may bagyo. Many years ago in my generation, December, you never had that. So you're feeling all these effects, di ba?
Mm.
So yun, Eric, we have the power to shape, but we also need to look at how are we shaping it. Are we doing more
Correct.
damage? Di ba?
Mm. Siguro ang isang magandang tanong dito, sir. By the way, sa ating mga viewers, if you have questions, type nyo lang po dyan sa chat, comment section sa Facebook or dyan ba sa chat sa YouTube, and we will try to have interaction. Didiscuss natin ang inyong mga questions. So siguro isa sa mga questions, sir, is so far, yung mga na-discuss natin, no, parang large scale yung mga kailangan na change na gawin, no? Tayo as a small entrepreneur, for example, no? Isang maliit na entrepreneur ka lang with maybe less than 10 employees, ano yung pwede nating gawin para makakontribute din, no, sa hindi lang sa economy kundi mas importante sa social and ecological benefit ng nakakaraan.
Yeah, a good question. And of course, this will not happen just overnight. No, there's a lot of but yeah, to make it something that people can relate to, like even your employees, di ba?
Mm.
Yung benefits mo, you can review that, di ba? And start to really focus on their well-being, di ba? So, um, to depends how serious you are in really wanting to make that the center of your, di ba? Of your entire employee benefit, if you will, di ba? Yung welfare nila. So, do you encourage them, to, take care of themselves? And when say encourage, hindi lang money, that's one, but also really actively take part in education and even providing intervention for them to become healthier, not just in physical health, even yung mental health nila. Yan, very relevant today, di ba?
Mm.
You can do that lalo na in your small company. On the environment side, what are you doing to prank, depending on what your business is? Are you contributing to help the environment, or maybe depends on what product or service are you adding? Kunyari, if you're still using traditional means and it does damage to the environment, you could make those small changes, Eric.
Mm.
Simply not using plastics. Don't encourage your magdala kayo ng lunchbox, or ito ipo-provide ko na lang sa inyo. Huwag na kayong supot yung plastic.
Plastic.
Di ba? Oo. Pati yung tubig na inumin nyo, I'll provide na a simple water
Water
cooler.
dispenser.
Yeah, with your mug, with your name, 'di ba? Para hindi ka nabibili ng bottled water, 'di ba?
Mm.
Ang dami mong
Kahit
pwedeng gawin.
yung straw, di ba, may mga uso ngayon na metal straw para hindi ka na
Correct.
gumamit ng plastic straw.
Correct. As an
Ganun.
employer, you can do that. Kung 10 lang yung employee, it doesn't take much. But okay, sabi mo, yeah, but that won't cure the problem. Yeah, but if everyone thinks that way, then that's exactly what happens, right?
Kung maraming gumagawa ng mga ganong maliliit na acts, no, if
Oh,
you multiply that, malaki pa rin yung effect niya.
of
Yeah, parang
course.
katulad nitong question ni sir, ni Norberto Manuel from Facebook. I see good development in Manila with Yorme, but not with other cities. Do we rely on our leader or president to make good things happen in the Philippines?
Of course, it would be nice if they do, but we also have our civic duty and our personal duty. Diba? So and the reality is you can only control so much. Diba? So you focus on what you can do. So yung tanong nga ni Eric, sige, malita ko negosyante. Sige, sabihin natin, I'm an online, nagbebenta akong pagkain. Diba? What can I do? Diba? Yeah, you can make choices. O unang-una, where do you put your food? Bina-brown bag mo na lang ba yan instead of plastic? Marami na ngayon, affordable, biodegradables. Or, you might be creative and using your own, telling your customers, let's help the environment. You provide your, the packaging that you want, so that one, you're sure it's clean, and two, we don't, add to the trash and protect the environment. Right? Pwedeng ganun ang gawin mo, di ba? And then bring, so many things, di ba? The small things that you can do. So to the point of the question is, yeah, of course, we have to work with our government too, but focus on what you can really do. Di ba? If you just wait for them, it doesn't also help. Diba? Because the reality is you only focus on what you can really do. Diba?
Mm.
Now it's nice if
So,
they do. Yeah.
tayo in our own small way, meron tayong magagawa, no?
Of course.
So, yun, kahit mga maliliit na bagay, yun nga, kapag minultiply mo yan, at karamihan yun yung ginagawa, malaki yung effect nun sa ating environment.
Right.
Ayan.
Yung listahan, Eric, sa sari-sari store, di ba? Eh di,
Mm.
get scratch paper. I mean, luma na to. This is nothing new. But
Mhm.
really, it has to start with ikaw wanting to, di ba, operate and achieve success responsible, sustainable, and equitable way. Di ba?
Mm.
Kung yun
Mm.
yung mindset mo kasi, lahat ng behavior mo, yun ang gagawin mo. There's a better way here. Hindi na gagastos masyado or hindi madadamage yung environment. Di
So,
ba?
focus ka more on how to recycle things, no? Na
Correct.
dispose. Kasi nga, yung plastic, matagal yan mag-dissolve,
Degrade. Yeah.
mag-degrade. Oo.
Yeah.
So, very important na as much as possible, ma-recycle natin. Yun yan, na-mention yun, yung mga may food delivery business, it's a choice between styrofoam versus carton, di ba, na biodegradable. So,
Yeah.
or meron akong napanood, I think sa isa sa mga Korean novela yata yun, na nagde-deliver sila kasama yung plato. Tapos, next delivery, kukunin nila yung platong napagkamitan na. Papalitan nila
Correct.
ng bagong food kasama yung plato. So, yun, nire-recycle nila kahit delivery siya. Galing
Correct.
nung idea na yun.
Correct. Di ba? So,
Yeah.
yan. Di ba, tatanungin mo, ay, ba't ginagawa yun? Kasi yung owner, yung entrepreneur, nag-decide siya. Hindi, I'll do my part. Di ba? Wala namang nag-uutos sa kanyang gawin yun. Di ba?
Correct.
O di, nagko-contribute siya. Di ba?
Mhm.
Let's say,
yun,
go ahead. Go ahead.
So yun yung magagawa natin, mga small steps, no, to save the planet, and also in that way we also help more people, no. And better din na kung meron tayong influence or meron tayong kakilala that can influence the government or a big organization, then maybe we have to start talaga to focus our attention, no, on hindi lang yung economy natin, hindi lang profits yung tinitingnan, kundi yung overall social and ecological benefit nung kung ano man yung mga programs na ginagawa natin.
Right. And I'm looking at our title. So, what does this all mean for the future? Actually, there's a lot of opportunity. I'll give you an example. I was working on this project prior to COVID. So, medyo na ano siya, na madidelay, no? But I was working with, a nephew of mine, and, meron siyang technology na there's this particular fly that eats municipal waste, and yung kanyang anyway, long story short, the larvae, you turn it into very high grade fish feed. Yeah. So imagine yung basura ng gagamitin yon, and this fly, yung larvae niya, you turn it into fish feed. O so sabihin ng iba, so ano yung impact nun sa environment? Well, right now, the animal feed for fish is the highest cost and takes up so much water, takes up so much land if you don't produce it that way. So I have the figures, diba? So millions of liters of water need to be, lalo na kung ang source mo ng protein is animal protein. You need a lot of land, a lot of water, di ba? If you use this technology, all of that is wow, not maybe just a small percentage. So that's a classic case, that's an opportunity, di ba? Where you're cleaning up the municipal waste, and it becomes now something that's necessary for food production, which impacts who is at the end of the food chain, the human being, tayo.
Correct.
Di ba? But you've done it in a responsible and sustainable. Sustainable because yung waste,
Mm, mm.
And responsible dahil, you use technology and then sustainable yun. Di ba? Ang ganda nun.
Okay. Dapat pag nag-iisip tayo ng mga business or bagong business model, dapat kino-consider din natin yun. No?
Correct.
Ayan. So, question naman sa ating mga viewers. Ayan. What are our takeaways? What are your takeaways from our topic today? Type niyo yan sa comment section sa Facebook or chat dyan sa YouTube. So, ako naman ang aking takeaway for this week is kung meron tayong business na iniisip or pinapatakbo rin, let's re-evaluate, look at the big picture, and yung ginagawa ba natin will help us hindi lang economically or for profit? Will it also help our mga neighborhood, no? Yung social nga and ecological benefit. Ano yung mag-benefit ng planet natin diyan sa business mo or the way you do your business, no? And ultimately, dapat yung ginagawa natin should be responsible, no? Yun nga, environmentally responsible. And it also should be sustainable. Hindi yung tapon-tapon lang lagi. As much as possible, we have to recycle, no? Do multiple things with a few resources. And it should be
Correct.
equitable na mas maraming tao dapat yung mag-benefit, hindi yung tayo lang. Hindi tayo dapat greedy or selfish. Ayan. Sir Mike Sibayan is watching us, Sir Enrico.
Oh, wow. Hello, Mr.
Hello,
Mike.
thank you for watching. Ayan. Type niyo po
Yeah.
yung takeaways sa ating comments. So, Sir Enrico, ano pong ating summary for our topic this week?
Well, the summary here is really there's great opportunity, and there's really we've got to look at a different way that we define success or the economic progress, and clearly we have seen what is not working with the current, diba, setup around the world, diba? And this is the time really for us to take stock, diba, that the balance has been kind of lost, and steps have to be taken, right? And we showed examples of that, and it's really about, I personally I really agree with that. You put the well-being, diba, at the center, and then and of course this is a lot of it's a lot of work in progress, and even the mental shift to start looking at it that way is in itself a huge challenge, diba? Because we've been, our model has been there for so many years, decades actually, and that's what we really need to look at, so that we can exactly define success responsibly, sustainably, and make it equitable, right, all around the world, so that even our planet, which is in peril on the climate and environment side, we coexist with our planet. We have the power to repair, yet ironically, we also have the power to destroy it. So it's up to us, right?
Yan. Thank you very much. So, our topic naman next week sa ating susunod na episode is incentive super response tendency. Ano bang summary nito, sir, for our next
Okay,
episode?
summary. Maybe I should have asked the question. Really, meron kasing not too good side yung incentive. So and this will talk about what is the typical response to an incentive. So what happens kasi, di ba, when there's an incentive, you see a super response, meaning a change in the behavior. But whose motivation is driving that? Sometimes what happens is it's of course the personal agenda that drives the change in behavior, and may not be consistent with what the incentive in the first place wanted to achieve. Okay, so ano yan di ba? If you get into incentives, there's that dilemma. The moment you get into incentives, di ba? When can you stop that? Right?
Mhm.
So, yan yung pag-uusapan natin. And this can apply sa
So,
corporate
ang topic to sa mga boss or mga businesses na nagpo-put up
businesses.
ng incentive program, no?
Yes.
Na depende kung ano yung mission ng incentive program, paano siya matutweak para magawa yung ultimate purpose ng incentive. Tama ba?
That's, and we will just discuss that, it has to be something that you're very aware of, di ba, when you create the incentives, di ba, and we'll talk about ano yung typical behavior. Very simple, di ba, you put an incentive, di ba, even in animals, di ba, when you want to shape a certain behavior, the
Mm.
traditional, you put, an incentive. So the question then is, pag wala na yung incentive, paano yung behavior, di ba?
Oo, correct. Exciting yung susunod na episode na yan. So para hindi nyo po ma-miss, make sure that you subscribe. Click nyo yung subscribe button dyan sa YouTube, or you can also join our Facebook group. Yung link doon nasa bottom nitong video description. Click nyo lang yon so you can join our Facebook group na Truly Happy Juan para updated kayo lagi sa ating mga episodes. So yan yung ating episode number 30. Next week, lagay nyo na sa calendar ng Saturday, 5 p.m. We will see you again by that time. So at this point, let's end our episode, our usual panatang makabayan. So taas po natin ang ating kanang kamay at sabay-sabay bigkasin ang panatang makabayan. Iniibig ko ang Pilipinas, aking lupang sinilangan, tahanan ng aking lahi. Kinukupkop ako at tinutulungan upang maging malakas, masipag at marangal. Dahil mahal ko ang Pilipinas, diringgin ko ang payo ng aking mga magulang. Susundin ko ang tuntunin ng lipunan. Tutuparin ko ang tungkulin ng mamamayang makabayan. Naglilingkod, nag-aaral at nagdarasal ng buong katapatan. Iaalay ko ang aking buhay, pangarap at pagsisikap sa bansang Pilipinas. Ayan, maraming salamat po. Again, we will see you next Saturday